Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
And the Sixers win it! Wow!
Oh man, and being just posterized Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles! Let me get a hell yeah!
What is up, everybody? It is Dives, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Party on Broad. POB can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Smash that subscribe button, guys. If you're watching us here at the TPL YouTube channel, joining me today is my man Tyson, our resident hockey expert here at the Painted Lines. If you don't already, make sure you give my man a follow at Quibell Tyson. What up, Tyson?
Not much. Excited to talk about some prospects today.
Yes, sir. Today we are breaking down and counting down the top 10 prospects on the Philadelphia Flyers. Should we just get into it, or you want to do it? You want to plug anything?
No, I mean, we can get into it. I mean, it's I got a bunch of stuff I'm working on right now. Currently, I'm excited for. So I ranked about 400 prospects today that are already drafted. Took a lot of time, so I'm still ironing out some things, but I'm hoping to get some bigger lists out soon. In this weird NHL offseason, where normally we're a couple weeks into the season at this point, and instead we're waiting to find out when and if there will be a season and what that'll look like. So I still have this very much. I'm like, I just need hockey right now. I've been watching European games so to get my fix. So yeah, but I'm excited to go through this list. Flyers' future looks bright, as we've talked about many times before.
Amazing future. Let's roll with number 10, German Rubtsov, center, 21 years old, 6 foot, 203 pounds. They acquired him through the 2016 NHL entry draft, first round, 22nd overall. Tell us about German Rubtsov.
Yeah, he's still in the top 10 here. I've seen some recent lists from some other Flyers writers that have him just outside now. Unfortunately, of Flyers prospects, he's probably considered at this point a little bit of a disappointment in that he was a first-round pick. However, his upside just might be different than people think. So Flyers did get him into a few games last year. I actually think he'll be in competition for a roster spot for a fourth-line role next year. And he just projects as a more defensive-minded fourth-line player now, where before we saw flashes of offensive upside, where we looked at him and said, you know what, maybe he could be a top-line winger or center at some point, and that just doesn't seem to be the case. That being said, his skill set is still fairly high, and I could see him easily being on the Flyers roster, whether as a spare or as a fourth-line winger starting the season next year. I think they're going to give him a long look, and I think that he still is a top 10 prospect for the Flyers right now.
All right, let's roll on to number 9, and that is Wade Allison, a right winger, 22 years old, 6'2", 205 pounds from Western Michigan University. He was the 52nd overall pick in the second round of the 2016 NHL entry draft. What's up with Wade Allison, man?
He's a fun one. I've referred to him before as Scott Hartnell Light. He's got a very fun personality.
Cool.
He's a strong, aggressive fourth line, sort of third, fourth line type of player. And he's also shown offense at the college level. So he's an older rookie, right, in his early 20s. And so he actually, I think, as well, has a shot to potentially make it on the roster. I think they'll give him a look as well, especially because he fits a more kind of older school, stereotypical third, fourth line type of guy. Strong physicality, uses his size well. And is just an overall fun player. So after playing 4 years in Northern Michigan, he'll be excited to either put on a Flyers jersey or a Lehigh Phantoms jersey at the beginning of next season.
All right. Same age, another 22-year-old, this time a center. We're talking about the 8th best prospect. That is Tanner Lucinski, 6'1", 190 pounds from Ohio State University. He was taken in the 6th round of the 2016 NHL entry draft. Tell us a little bit about Tanner Lucinski.
I've been a big fan of his for a long time. I think he's very underrated. I've seen him as low as number 15 on some Flyers prospects lists. I think I might have him the highest of some of the ones that are out there. And in particular, he played 4 years at Ohio State. He was their captain for a few of those seasons, played for the United States at the World Junior Championship. And he doesn't do anything like super, super well. he's just a super well-rounded overall player. So he's not going to blow you away. He was a point a game for like a couple seasons there in NCAA. At the NHL level, he just looks a really solid overall player that can slot anywhere in your lineup. He can play center, he can play wing. He's very versatile, has leadership skills and capabilities, and I think that he is probably the most mature of all their prospects currently in terms of NHL readiness, maybe even more so than Morgan Frost. Now, obviously, we're talking different upsides here. We're talking NHL ready as a third, fourth liner with a third, I think probably third line being his ceiling type of player. But overall, he's got a good, well-rounded game, and I think he's a player that Flyers fans could get behind. Very aggressive as well, very strong work ethic. Very fun player as well, and I think we could as well see him compete for a roster spot in the fall, it is the fall in after Christmas. See, I'm in the old pre-COVID hockey mode here.
All right, rolling on to number 7. I think this is the last of the 20-somethings in this ranking. We have Isaac Radcliff, a left winger, 21 years old, 6'6", 208 pounds. He was a 35th overall pick in the 2017 draft. What's going on with Isaac Radcliff?
Yeah, so he actually had a bit of a tough transition last year from the OHL to the AHL. That being said, I still like his upside. So he is a very unique, rare player in that he's 6'6", and well over 200 pounds, and he has the hands and pucks moving ability of a smaller player. So you can see him make plays and make moves that oftentimes you'll see very small, more diminutive players make. And so he struggled in transition last year. That being said, Lehigh Valley also struggled as a team last year, even though on paper they didn't look too bad. So I imagine he will again start in Lehigh Valley again, and he'll be hopefully in a top 6 role in the AHL. Okay. But I still could see him potentially being a second, third line player at the NHL level. He just needs some more time, and that's not surprising judging by his size and age. So he's early 20s. I think you say he's 21, and he's got some time. Flyers will be patient and at least give him another season likely before giving him a real shot at the NHL level.
All right, number 6 is a little shocking because this was the number 1 pick in this year's 2020 NHL draft, but there's another pick that's higher than this guy, and I'm talking about Tyson Forrest, 6'2", 180-pound centerman, winger from Canada. Talk to us a little bit about Tyson Forrest, man.
Yeah, he's close to the other guy in terms of my own rankings from the draft. They were very close. So that being said, I still have him as the 6th best prospect. But that being said, in a year from now, maybe even 6 months from now, we could see him jump more into our top 3 or 4 even, depending on how his season goes. So Tyson Forrest, as we've talked before, he's got an NHL-ready shot. Looks like a second-line winger at the NHL level, power play guy. Definitely just needs some work on his skating. So if what we keep hearing in the rumor mill is that his skating has improved, then that bumps him up in my list. Oh. That being said, I personally have not seen it yet, as had anybody else.
No one.
So so we're kind of waiting. His league is in a weird spot. The OHL, the health Ministry of Health in Ontario actually just said that they would allow the OHL potentially to play if they did not have body contact. And you're like, huh? So there's a lot they're still figuring out on that front. That being said, if he does ever get going on the season, I think, and we see that improvement, he could jump up. But right now he's my number 6.
All right. Now we're going to roll into the top 5 Flyers prospects. Right after Tyson Forrest was Emil Andre in the 2nd round of the 2020 NHL entry draft. 5'9", 18-year-old from Sweden. I know you love this guy from when we did our draft reaction in that 2nd round. Talk to us a little bit about Emil Andre.
Yeah, has the potential to be a very much a fan favorite whenever he makes it over to North America. As you said, he's very small, but he's a huge open ice hitter for his size. Loves taking the body. He's also offensively skilled, makes great plays out of his own zone, can quarterback a power play. He is already playing in Sweden right now and has looked great so far in some of the footage I've seen from him. Still on that projection. And so I think he projects as a potential top 4 blue liner at the NHL level. he's going to need some time again. Like, we'll see how his size translates. I'm not concerned because he's very strong, like extremely strong for his size. And even though he's 5'9", I mean, in today's NHL, like Quinn Hughes on Vancouver that tore it up in the playoffs is about the same size. So maybe a little bit bigger. So the game has changed. If you can, if you're intelligent enough to get away from getting hit from power forwards, which is becoming less of a thing, he's going to be fine. So I think he's a top 4 blue liner. It'll be a few years before we see him, but I'm a big fan. My fandom continues.
Yeah, dude, a 5'9" guy, flying around, taking heads, kicking ass, taking names. Like, I'm just like really excited to see that guy on the ice. Let's roll on to number 4, and that is Mr. Igor Zamula, 6'4", 170 pounds, out of Calgary. He was a free agent, signed in 2018. What's going on with Igor Zamula?
Yeah, he's a guy. It was another one of those Hextall signings, like Phil Myers, that we're seeing the fruit of now. Guy that doesn't get drafted for whatever reason, but is big and tall and has some offensive upside, but some massive defensive deficiencies. That's what it was with Myers. And Zamula is kind of that same sort of guy. He's highly offensively talented. He ran power play. He ran power play for Russia at the World Junior Championships last year, was arguably their best defenseman on a really good team. He's got really slick puck handling skills for such big a player. He can drive play, and that he has no problem taking the puck into the offensive zone and setting up, whether at 5-on-5 or on the power play. I love watching him skate, his skating stride. He's kind of a boomer bust type offensive guy. He played an exhibition game for the Flyers in the restart, which was really surprising, considering that they kept him with the main squad. And he did not look out of place, though he obviously did have some moments where we're just like, whoa, buddy, look at that pass. Hold on. But again, that'll come with time. I don't think he's going to compete for a roster spot next season. I think if there's injuries, they might call him up, but I do think they want him to play a top 4 role in Lehigh next year.
Okay.
Now we'll see how that goes. I need to check if he's playing in the KHL right now. Some of the European players have signed kind of these temporary contracts while they wait for the AHL and NHL to start. He might be in that category. So some teams have also just chosen to stash those guys overseas for this year and just re-examine the following year. And regardless, though, even if it is a KHL, it's a good league. But he's still likely a few years away as well. But just think of Phil Myers again. This is kind of his similar projection of a type of player.
All right, rolling into the top 3 and leading that off is Bobby Brink, right winger out of University of Denver, 5'8", 159 pounds. This guy was a 34th overall pick in the 2019 draft. Man, tell us a little bit about Bobby Brink.
Yeah, you're going to see a trend here with some of these guys that the Flyers have drafted over the years. They're really high on players that they believe have strong character in particular. And Bobby Brink is that type of guy as well. So he's 5'8", 159, crazy work ethic. But the year he got drafted in the United States Hockey League, his team won the championship. And he blocked a shot and like broke a bone in his foot and still finished the game. So that's kind of his MO. And yet he's also highly offensive skilled. So he was almost a point a game for Denver and NCAA as a freshman. Really good start. He gained some strength. He still had some injury issues. That's going to be something to keep an eye on. His skating has improved a little bit. So one of the things wasn't that he was a slow skater. He just skated wonky was the one scouting report I read. It was kind of funny. Wonky. Just a little bit, a little bit too hunched over, kind of like, what are his knees doing? But it didn't really matter because he did what he needed to do, right, all season long, and it gets him there. So he's a player as well that is a few years away from probably even signing an NHL contract. The NCAA, some teams are practicing right now, but again, like we said, it's weird right now. So at some point, hopefully he gets in some games, but I think he'll at least play another year, if not 2, for Denver before making a signing to play for either Lehigh or the Flyers.
All right. Number 2 is Cam York, the 19-year-old defenseman, 5'11", 175-pounder from University of Michigan. 14th overall in the first round of the 2019 draft. What's going on with Cam York?
Yeah, he is in a really unique opportunity this year. So he's at the University of Michigan. He's a sophomore this year. He had a pretty decent freshman year, played for the United States at the World Junior Championships. He's likely to do so again this year. The World Juniors is a go this year. Once again, they're going to do a bubble in Edmonton, Alberta, kind of like the NHL. So that'll be a really good idea to get an eye on players. And also for all you amateur scouts out there like myself, they are not allowing scouts in the bubble. So we're all on an equal playing field when it comes to looking at prospects on television this year. We'll all be watching on NHL Network. But Cam York is a highly skilled offensive defenseman. The Michigan team he's playing on this year is insane. It might be one of the deeper teams I have ever seen in NCAA history. So when you look at it in terms of first round picks, guys that have committed, and they are practicing right now, and they are anticipated to play games very soon. So the Big Ten conference that they're in is expected to be a go. So they have a guy, Owen Power, who's like potentially a defensive partner for him, who is in the top 3 picks for this year's upcoming draft on most people's lists. Some people have him as high as 1. So York could put up a monster offensive year this year, just based upon who he's playing against. And I think that will help him, because then they're not relying on him to do too much. Gives them a little bit of a safety net still. And depending on how he does, I think the Flyers will look to sign him at the end of this college season. But it will be at least another year or two before we see him really making a push for the Flyers.
All right, which means we are down to Tyson's number 1 Flyers prospect, and that is Morgan Frost, center, 20-year-old, 6 foot, 180 pounds. He was a first-round selection, 27th overall in the 2017 NHL entry draft. What's going on with Morgan Frost, man?
Yeah, he had a solid year last year, playing some NHL games. He showed some flashes of his brilliance in some NHL games, and then also was with the Flyers in the bubble. And so he would have been, had they had more injuries, I think he would have ended up playing some games for them in the postseason. So next year, as of now, depending on if they decide to sign some veterans or not, he's likely slotted in a third-line winger role on the left side in particular. And so I think that we're going to see him play NHL games. And I think we're going to see him. I could easily see him scoring between 15 and 20 goals. So next season as a rookie as well. So again, Frost, for me, he projects as a potential top line winger or even a center. I don't know if the Flyers are going to put him there. They're pretty loaded in terms of Couturier and Hayes is kind of their 1-2. And with Patrick back in the fold, they might prefer him to at least stay on the wing to begin with. But regardless, might be kind of a fun line. I've been thinking about how cool it would be to see Frost and Patrick together, with Patrick just re-signing and seemingly healthy on a third line. That's a pretty good third line when you think about it that way. So there's some upside there for sure, and some youth. So with Frost, again, I think he's going to put up points at some point. It just may not be next season. And he's in that weird place right now where he's waiting to see what the season for him is going to look like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our top 10. It's looking pretty good.
All right, I got a couple questions for you before we wrap this up. Number 1, where do the Flyers rank? Does their farm system rank in the rest of the NHL? Is it like top 3rd, middle of the pack? Where do the Flyers rank with their prospects?
Yeah, so right now I have them around between. I'm still kind of doing a couple loose ends on a few prospects, but in general I have them between 9 and 11.
Okay.
Between 9th and 11th. So on the low end 11th, on the high end 9. So they're around that top 10 mark. And a lot of that just had to do with even the draft this year, because a team like LA, New York, they were already high, but they bumped up even more. And a few other teams as well, and kind of that rebuilding cycle just made a jump because they had higher picks. So in terms of their actual depth, it's not like they dropped anywhere or made bad picks. It was a matter of a couple other teams just bolted ahead through a rebuild process that they're in process of. So league-wide, they're looking pretty good. A lot of these guys, like I said, are projecting between 3, even 4 years down the road. So you're still talking about this continuing pipeline. And that doesn't even include like some other guys that I have that are closer on, that are just outside the top 10, like Ronnie Attard, who I like, and goalie Sam Ersson, and Ivan Fedotov. this Russian goalie that has one of the highest save percentages in the Russian league, Jay O'Brien. Like we can go down this list of guys that are really still solid prospects, but just are not in their top 10 currently and are going to need more time. But again, 3 to 4 years down, they're going to be jumping in. It's going to be good.
Last question, and I want to talk to you about the 4th round pick. This guy was that rags to riches story, one of the most heartfelt stories in the NHL draft. Zack Wisdom. How far away, how far along is this guy to get into your top 10 rankings?
That's a good question. I think I have him close to between like the 13, 14 mark right now. For him, man, like again, I could see him playing NHL games at some point, but again, he kind of is more like a two-way guy. For me, when I rank guys, I'm usually looking at an offensive upside, how they can if they can drive play more so than whether or not I think that guy will be an NHL player. So, for example, like right now, Wade Allison and Tanner Lucinski are more NHL ready than Brink, York, and Zamula. But obviously on my list in terms of upside, they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
And they won't be. But when it comes to a guy like Zack Wisdom, like I could see him being a 3rd, 4th line guy. And this season will help determine that, I think. Like he kind of came out of nowhere this year. So as of now, he looks like a 3rd, 4th line guy. But he could have a monster season. He's a highly motivated individual. We've seen from his story. I mean, the fact that the Flyers signed him as they did, I mean, that was such a gesture on their part, like knowing his financial situation with his family, getting some of that bonus money like already. That's just a huge gesture. I mean, he signed before Forster did. As the 4th over 1st, and that was intentional by the organization. So that was a really cool gesture to see. The entire NHL gave them a huge kudos for that. And again, Wisdom, like a lot of those other guys in this system, high character guys, may not like blow your socks off with offensive numbers down the road, but are likely to contribute because of their commitment to their overall being in good shape, overall commitment to detail, and in their system, like being developed to maximize the type of player he could be. And so there's a lot to like about him. I'm just not sure he's going to be a 2nd, 3rd line or 2nd line kind of scoring winger at the NHL level. But I do think he will be a fan favorite whenever he gets in.
If you don't know who Zack Wisdom is, right after this pod ends, make sure you go check it out. YouTube it. Just one of the most heartfelt stories you'll ever watch. We're really rooting for this kid, man. That was just some of the most emotional moments of the NHL draft. You know, really rooting for you, Zack Wisdom. So I think we'll wrap it up here. That is Tyson Quibell. Follow him on Twitter at Quibell Tyson. Check out all of his content over at thepaintinglines.com. We've also got several Flyers Futures pods done here at the TPL YouTube channel. Just type it in, Morgan Frost. Find a more intensive breakdown of what this guy is, what he's been up to, what he needs to work on, all the above. For Tyson, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.